Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to this YouTube series in which I'll explain the ins and outs of being an IGL in Valorant. In this series we'll discuss many different topics regarding just being an IGL and, well, the team environment in general. So, if you're gonna be interested in this series, make sure to drop a like below and hit the subscribe button. And if you have any suggestions or topics that you want me to discuss, make sure to leave them in the comments as well. So, let's get right into the video. First of all, I want to apologize for not uploading any video for like the last 3 or 4 weeks. Main reason for it really was like motivation, I guess. I kind of just forgot about making these videos, and then I rather did some other stuff. So I guess you could call it a motivation problem. But whatever, we're fucking back. This video, we're back to discuss Valorant compositions, and we'll discuss two different types of compositions: meta versus off meta. Each of these comps obviously have their own disadvantages and advantages, so we'll discuss all of those things. So we'll start by looking at meta comps. So what even is a meta composition, or rather, what even is a composition? From my point of view, a composition is a set of 5 agents that often facilitate the style of a team, or/and these agents are complementary. Generally speaking, a composition is meta if it's being used a lot by different teams, and therefore is often looked at as the best composition to use in the current competitive environment. Now, using a meta composition can be beneficial because, well, the composition will often be well balanced, just easier to use, and most importantly, you'll have a lot of footage available from teams using these compositions. Now, on the other hand, other teams will also be able to determine the weaknesses of a meta composition easier because there's just simply so much information about the composition out there. Also, a meta composition can just simply be predictable, because if you're going into a series, your opponent might just practice against like a meta comp or practice for a meta comp. If you're using that comp, they might have great like counter strats. So using a meta composition can just lead to like higher quality anti-strats. So how can you even structure a meta composition, or how can you even design one? Well, simply a meta composition can just be copied from pro teams, right? You can determine a meta composition by looking at what the top pro teams use on the map and see if other pro teams use similar compositions. So, for example, you can go on VLR and just go to one of the pro tournaments, for example, Last Masters or whatever champions that's also coming up, maybe even LCQ, and you just take a look at what map, what compositions are used by what teams. And what you'll probably see is that there will be like one or maybe two compositions that are being used by most teams, and you could look at those compositions as meta compositions. So what you just do is you take those compositions and you try to slot your own players right into the roles of those compositions. Obviously, meta compositions are very well balanced, and they're often kind of like general. So what I mean by that is that they facilitate they could facilitate any style really, most of the times. So what you want to do is you want to look at the composition and just think about how you can use this meta composition for your own style. Because maybe your style is unique and a meta composition might actually not be the best way. So that's why we're going to talk about off meta compositions now. So off meta compositions include combinations of agents that are just less frequently used. Simply all compositions that are not seen as meta. And these comps are often unique to a team, sometimes just being deduced from a meta composition, but tailored to the team's style by changing agents. Off-meta compositions are often unpredictable, and they could facilitate certain styles, playstyles better than meta compositions. For example, if you're more an execute-heavy team, you might want to change some agents around compared to the meta composition because, well, they might be less defaulty. For example, an Omen that has rechargeable smokes versus maybe a Brimstone that can put 3 smokes down right away. So those are kind of the things that you have to look at. But on the contrary, you probably won't be able to find too much footage on how to play your meta composition, meaning you'll just have to experiment more yourself, resulting in wasting more time. Off-meta compositions are structured in a way that fits your team the best, so you'll have to go over each role and decide what agent would be best on what map for your team. You can relatively easily design off-meta comps by taking meta comps and changing one or more agents that you like better for your team. Now, overall, when structuring a composition, you always want to ask yourself the following questions for each role on each map. First of all, well, why this agent instead of any other agent? For example, as I just said, Astra or Brimstone versus an Omen. And the second question is, Does this agent work well with the other agents? So, for example, do you want to put a Fade and a Jet together, or maybe a Fade and a Raze? Because obviously the Raze Fade combo with the Fade C's and the Raze Nade, or Paint Shells, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is a great combo. And maybe if you use a Jet instead of a Raze, that combo gets lost. So the third question you want to ask is, does the overall composition fulfill all my needs as a team, and does it fit my teammates well enough? So what I mean by that is that you want to, if you go for an off-meta comp, you want it to fit your playstyle as much as possible, and also you want your teammates to be comfortable enough on those roles in the composition, or on the agents in the composition, um, that they are going to play well, and that you don't have to go through your first months as a team just adapting to new roles, because that will just waste too much time, too much valuable time that you could use on just practicing strategies, playing in officials, and just being a good working on team chemistry and just being a good team altogether. Keep in mind that sometimes there are reasons why compositions are meta. Maybe it's better to not deviate from it, at least to begin with. That being said, Valorant is a game in which you could make anything possible and anything work, but you always need to know the weaknesses and strengths of your composition. And you need to work to reduce the chance of your opponents capitalizing on your weaknesses. So, for example, if you play without a sentinel in your composition, that is not Sage, you might want to play more with like a lurker, because your flank is going to be weak as you don't have like trips or a turret or whatever the fuck to hold the flank. Another great example is, if you don't play Sage on Icebox, you will definitely struggle to plan B. But you can kind of counter this by just going B on ecos to still make the other team feel like you're going B, even though on the gun rounds, you're only going A. So we discussed two different types of compositions and how to structure them. So the next step for an IGL would actually be to create the strategies, which we'll discuss in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it interesting, make sure to drop a like below and hit the subscribe button. If you have any suggestions or topics that you want me to discuss, make sure to drop them in the comments as well. And I would love you guys. Thank you so much for fucking watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in next videos. Alright, peace out.